shirt. I've seen that shirt about 30,000 times. Sorry.
I don't think I wore it this week. I wear it once a week.
You wore it this week.
We're live. Yeah. Anyway.
Once a week, Ken. That's it.
Dog was going through something over there that shouldn't be. Anyway, welcome to the HockeyBuzzcast. We have a fun little show for you guys today. Let's start off with Russ. So, got something to add at the beginning of the show?
Two small things. Here's a baseball one. A long time ago, I guess maybe 10, 12 years ago, I decided, let me start collecting a lot of Mets team sets. So, because I already had ones from the 80s, and I had made a dividing line, like basically Mets baseball died in 86. So everything, but so did the card industry to some degree for a while. So that was my dividing line. So I started with the 62, and I'm still working on that, and I'm filling in all the others. One of the hardest cards to get, and this is always the weird part about collecting, is this card.
1972.
A 72 high number, John Milner.
Yep.
The hammer. But also, I didn't realize Tommy Hutton was going to be on it, who used to kill Seaver. But it's a hard card to find because in those days, the high numbers were ridiculous to get. I think they only came out like the latter part of the season, too.
And short produced also.
Now, do you have a Seaver rookie?
Yeah, I have a Seaver rookie. I bought that a couple of years ago. One time, I want to say this was back in the 90s. I walked into a guy's shop who I knew had a really good shop. And this was, I want to say this was, what are you going to, you went to the Hall of Fame maybe like 92?
Your last day was at 87, so I went in 92.
Right. So I want to say in 91, I went to a card shop and I said, give me all your Seaver cards. I want to fill in everything I don't have. And so I did that, and I spent about $100. The biggest one I pulled that day from him was a 68, so his second year card, and he filled in everything else. This guy was incredible, the amount of stuff he had, and so that's what I do sometimes. The other thing I want to mention is an article Jan gave us about what MLB is doing to minor league baseball. So now, this is a weird thing with the clubhouse guys. I covered some regular baseball, and I also covered Atlantic League, so I have some familiarity. So with the clubhouse guys, it looks like now they have put they're paying them, but they no longer allow players to tip the guy, which again, if you know locker room guys for sports, they deserve this extra money because. And
that's where they made a substantive amount of their money also, wasn't the tips.
Correct. Now they can't. And in a way it looked like Major League Baseball, to try and make it look good, was saying, well, now we're going to have paid meals for the players. Okay, let me give you an idea what these paid meals are like. Like when I went to Burger King today, I probably did better than the paid meal they're going to give them. A lot of times it was Franks and beans or lousy pizza or just the worst kind of banquet food imaginable. That's what they're going to give these players for free.
Roast beef where the jockey had been hitting the
it's going to be that. And and whatever round potatoes they can heat up in 12, in an oven for 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's about the consistency of cardboard or
like
styrofoam.
The starch du jour, as we like to call it.
Yeah. I'll tell you, actually, from the catering business, since I was a hotel restaurant guy, the worst thing, and this is probably why I don't eat a lot of baked potatoes, is because they used to wrap these baked potatoes in this gold foil, right? Yeah. And literally, if they didn't get used up the week previous, even if it was a wedding, they got thrown right back in the batch the next week and re-put into the steamer all over again.
So, wow. Okay, I've been to enough bowling banquets, and I've always been like somebody who said, you know what,
just stop and wait.
Just give. How about just giving? Just give me the money. Just give me the money and just save the horse meat that you're giving us. But it's always bad, like baked ziti, iceberg lettuce salad, roast beef au jus, and macaroni and cheese that's been nuked so bad that it looks like it came from Chernobyl.
All right, I'm going to hate myself for this. Mike, what is the biggest bowling award you've ever won?
High series, and I won first place with my teammates.
Very nice.
Okay. Yeah, see,
bowling
I won
banquet, wedding. Bowling banquet, wedding. Kind of a little difference in terms of the model, in terms of what kind of
quality food. Quality of food, Jan, is definitely better at a wedding.
I've been in 2 bowling leagues in my life. Both of them, I drank a lot of beer. One of them, I did win most improved bowler because I think I started off the year with like
A
just
6
breaking
average.
100. My average for the year was like 130, and my personal high, which was I want to say 199. I couldn't even break 200.
Well, I'm the only person in this panel who can say he had a debilitating injury that happened while bowling.
You don't know that.
I know that.
You've never asked me what happened to me when I was bowling.
Well, you're part of the panel. Talk about it.
Well, we're waiting. In other words, we're waiting.
And I noticed a couple things about bowling for me. Like bowling, one thing I've noticed about bowling, this is not a shot at you, Mike, because I know you're an athlete. You've done athletic things in your past. But I can say that it's safe to say that everybody I knew in high school who was a horrible athlete was a really good bowler. It was just like a common thing. Like, I don't know what it is about that. And also, I do have respect for a sport that people can do while drunk. Like, there's no question that bowling is a sport that people can still do well.
There are people that I know, who are better bowling drunk than they are sober.
I'm married to one of those people, Mike. I know that too. Like I'm
the opposite. I'm terrible when I've had a few beers. The thing is, I'm competitive, so I want to win. I want to bowl as best I can, so I stay sober. I drink water or drink soda.
Yeah, no, I like
the best bowling movie. I agree with Funky. Kingpin was awesome.
I do like.
By the way, very cool on King Funky, who mentioned he's got a 52 top set with the mantle, so that's very cool.
Oh yeah, that is cool.
But in answer to Russ's thing, Russ knows my favorite card is the 74 horizontal Seaver card.
Yeah. That's a nice card.
Yeah.
I have a lot of extras from like 82 through 86, Russ, if you need any cards.
Well, my 80% of my card collection at least got toasted in Hurricane Sandy.
Right, I remember that, yeah.
So I had it in the basement with a sump pump and a foot and a half off the ground, and we got 4.5 feet of water in my basement. So mantle plaque, Ryan plaque, I forgot another plaque, and a ton of stuff that had gotten toasted over the years. So I had at least a couple of 100,000 cards sitting in the basement. About 80% of it got toasted.
I wanted an autographed Roger Clemens lithograph the year he won the Cy Young for the Blue Jays that got ruined in a flood. But you know what? When I was taking it apart,
in there.
When I was taking it apart, I noticed that there was a needle in the back of it. So.
There you go.
All right.
Notice he wasn't saying that when he was the Yankee. It's all of a sudden it's recent history that Mike's viewpoint has now seemingly changed. When he was a Yankee, you were all in on Clemens. Please.
I like this because nobody knows who this guy is, but I do.
Know who Alexander Goodnyuk is.
Yeah, Mike. There's no question. Mike dealt with Clemens and A-Rod. He doesn't like A-Rod, but he took the championships anyhow.
Yeah, of course. I'm a whore. Look at that.
All right, here we go, guys. Let's go. This is the 12th of November. Hello, Hockey World. It is Thursday, November 12th, 2020.
I'm Michael Agello, and I'm a whore.
I'm Jan Levine, and nothing I could say would resemble a good transition from that line.
Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology is just barely hanging on to my dignity here.
And I'm Eklund. And you're watching Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast, or supposedly the podcast, that brings you hockey stuff Monday through Friday at this time in the afternoon. So today, I wanted to do something fun because it's like it's a dreary day here in the Northeast. I mean, it's raining, it's dark. It's like there's nothing worse than like 40-degree weather when it's raining. So I was looking at the Canadian division. We talked about this because this is probably going to happen, right? The Canadian division is going to happen. And I decided that, if that's going to happen, then of course, we know the other divisions are all going to be realigned. So let's do that. Let's play around with that for a second.
First of all, how dare you? How dare you name it after that?
I know. I did that just for you, Mike.
I know.
I named the divisions, after some of the best hockey players of all time. And let's start with the Canadian division, and let's see what happens with the other division, and then let's talk about playoff scenarios because this is probably the most interesting thing about this.
It should be the OR division. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, I don't know about that anymore.
First of all, you don't even include OR. You have the Forsberg division.
I know because I tried to have a team that was in that division's player.
Is it because Bobby Orr came out in favor of a certain politician?
Can we just move on?
Mike's just upset it's not called the Gilmore division. That's what's really
all right. The Gretzky division. I'm calling it the Gretzky division because the Carter Hutton division was taken, right? So No, or the Gretzky division. Obviously, this is the easy one because we know what this is going to be. This is the 7 Canadian teams. We all talked about how tough this division would be, and I'm going to tell you right now that it has the lowest average winning percentage of the 4 divisions. First off, secondly, it has 7 teams. So if you're doing 4 teams to make the playoffs from each division, it's an easier chance. So this is not. I mean, it's a tough division, but I'm not going to sit there and say that this is. And and so these are the teams. And just for the heck of it, I did it my very early predictions as to how I think these teams are going to play out. And I know you guys are going to tell me I'm wrong, so I just thought I would start there.
I'm letting you finish first.
Okay, so this division obviously is what it is. What it is. 7 teams. It wasn't a matter of like picking it. So thinking about the playoff teams in this division, for me, there's 3. If we're going with the playoffs, now that we're going to talk about playoff formats in a second, but if the playoffs are 4 playoff teams, which is the most likely scenario I've heard, is the divisional playoffs, back to like the good old days. 1 plays 4, 2 plays 3 in the division. If that's the divisional playoffs, then we're going with the 4 teams that make the playoffs in this kind of are obvious to me. Like to me, it's Toronto, Calgary, Vancouver, Edmonton are the 4 playoff teams in this division. There's Montreal, Winnipeg, and Ottawa, I think, are all significantly further away from that. Where
actually, just one question: why Calgary?
First of all, Markstrom. Markstrom, I think, is a huge signing for them. I mean, that to me, I know they've been up and down, but when they've been good, they've been really pretty good. And then adding Markstrom, I think, is an enormous.
Yeah, but their defense is severely weakened. I mean, they're not as good. We don't know what's going to happen with Hamonic yet. But they're right now they have Giordano, Hanifin, Rasmus Anderson. I mean, they're not as strong as they were last year. Their goaltending is better, but he's going to be a lot busier with that defense the where it is.
I did not want to put Toronto first in this division. I didn't. I really, truly, honestly didn't.
Then why did you?
Because they are the best team in this division. I mean, it is flat out they're further along than Vancouver, Edmonton, in their progress. So it comes down to Toronto or Calgary. I think Toronto's.
Why do you think they're better than Calgary? Because I would argue that one.
Okay, but you think those are the top 2 teams, right?
I do.
Okay, so
you're not giving any play to Winnipeg's offensive talent they have on that roster and Hellebuck.
Yeah. Yes, but I think Winnipeg's got too many issues. I really do. I think defensively, and I also we still don't know if Patrick Laine is going to be there. There's
more issues than Edmonton. You think they have more? I mean,
well, okay. Edmonton's goaltending looks like a sieve still.
I will buy Calgary and Toronto being 1, 2. Like I said, I'm a little hesitant on Calgary because of their defense. But if there's a bounce back year for Monahan and Goudreau, if Kachuk continues to improve, I think they're really good. Vancouver, I'd have to see what happens with the goaltending with Holtby and Thatcher Demko.
I like that. I mean, Demko could be great. Holtby is still very good. I mean,
I think Vancouver. I think you have them in a good spot. But I think Winnipeg is the one that you may have wrong.
Okay.
And Montreal, Russ. It's like I like the additions that they've made. If Anderson comes back healthy and is a power forward like he is, this is why. Like right now, I'm questioning the order of 4, 5, 6. I think Edmonton's defense situation and their lack of improvement in goaltending is going to be a factor. Montreal's got better goaltending. Winnipeg's got better goaltending, and their forwards are just as good.
Yeah, so I think things are going to happen here that we don't know yet. Like,
there's no question. This is early returns. Okay, this is really ridiculously early returns.
But I do think
this is less than 1% of the vote counted type stuff here. Okay,
right. I do think I like Winnipeg better than Edmonton and Montreal as well.
Yeah, I mean, to me,
I can't put a Vezina goal.
Like lose Toronto in the offseason. Like I think that Maple Leafs made some good moves in the offseason. I think this was their best offseason they've had.
Yeah, well, this has
been there.
This is sort of an all-in year for them because, like I was saying on a previous show, they've got 9 unrestricted free agents. They added Thornton, they added Simmons, they added VC. All these guys. The only guy that was not a 1-year deal was Brody. So all the signings this year were pointed towards this year and this year only to add to support that core group. So
I like the Brody edition. I'm mediocre on the Thornton edition, and ice cold on the Wayne Simmons edition. So I don't, edition. So I don't know if they did great in the offseason.
What about VC and Bogosian?
I mean, VC, yes. Bogosian, how much is he going to play? If he plays, he did show some spirited play in the bubble. Will you get that? You hope. Right. You don't know.
Right. I agree.
No, to me, I think that it's a tough. It is not. It is interesting though. Toronto, Mike. For you not wanting this division to this Canadian thing to exist. This is a way easier division for them.
No, I think I think this division is stronger than you think, because I think there are 6. If you're keeping the same divisions, I think there are 6 teams in this division that make a 16-team playoff in the normal divisional set.
I don't know.
Yeah. Now the thing is, and I guess we'll talk about this. I think that with a shortened season, you're going to get an expanded playoff again, because they need to make more.
Yeah, we will talk about that. And there's a very good possibility that you'll see a 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5 scenario, I was told. Or
and also the other piece of
4 versus 5.
The other piece that somebody pointed out also is a big factor is going to be your backup goalie, because in a condensed schedule, you're going to have to rely on that backup. Right? So somebody said Winnipeg.
I like Jack Campbell. I have no problem with Campbell.
Winnipeg, maybe not so much, right?
Somebody mentioned Joey Anderson. I hope Joey Anderson's going to play for the big club. I don't know if he's going to this year. But
to me, that hurts Edmonton, because you have Koskinen and Smith, and I'm not sure if you have a number 1 between the two of them.
Right now, Russ, I think their fourth line is probably going to be Alexander Barabanov, the KHL import, with Thornton and Spezza. So I think Joey Anderson's playing.
So when there's an injury, Anderson will get to play.
Exactly.
All right, so I was told that that there are chances that there won't be conferences. That you'll just have these 4 divisions. The best team, if the best team winning record will play the 4th winning record, whatever division that's from. So that there wouldn't have conferences necessarily to go forward. But if you do have conferences, say if you were not go to like 1 versus 4, but have like the top 2 teams of each of the 2 conference teams make it, then the next 4 teams. If you did have conferences, this would be the other division that would go with the Canadians. And that would be this one. That would what I'm calling the Forsberg division. Now I know, controversially, Forsberg is not as good as the other guys that I have up here. But I wanted to find the best player I could think of who ever played for any of these teams, and that to me that
would be Joe Sakic. But anyhow.
But he's a GM of one of the teams, so
I know, but he's still the best player.
Okay, but second best player on any
Bobby Orr should be on here.
Paul Correa.
Yeah, I think Paul Correa could be second.
Ahead of Correa.
No, what you should do.
That's a good argument, though.
Yeah. Anyway.
But anyway, here's the Forsberg division. And now if you notice, the winning percentage in the Canadians was .547. That's the average winning percentage from last year. This winning percentage is .553. So slightly better.
But it's top heavy, right?
This is top heavy. Yeah, it is. So you have so here. This is the order I put them in: Avalanche number 1, Knights number 2, I think, and Blues number 3. I think those 3 teams are the best 3 teams in the division, hands down. Like, to me,
I agree with you.
Yep,
I'm fine with them.
Yeah. Okay. So then you get to the next combination is the star. The next team obviously would be the Stars, which would be your typical 4 team. They went to the Stanley Cup final, but were they overrated? The Kings are on their way up. So
not overrated, but injuries kill them.
Right.
Sagan, Bishop, Ben are all.
I don't know why you'd have the Kings ahead of the Stars. I don't.
I liked what I saw in the Kings last year, and I feel like they are making I feel like they still have Jonathan Quick, and I have this feeling that if when they were playing better, Quick was playing better too, and I think that there's still something left in Jonathan Quick's game.
Well,
there's always a surprise team, right? So to me, there's a surprise team here would be the Kings. Like they would be the team.
Let me say this, because I think, and this is not an insult to the Kings, because I love the group of prospects that they have, but the Kings are the Ottawa Senators of the Western Conference. They have a ton of young talent, but it's not realized yet. And this is going to be sort of a feeling out year for them. Their defense is not strong. I mean, they added Oli Mata, and he's probably going to be on their either top pairing or second pairing. So, you're going to have Turcotte. You're going to have maybe even Byfield, but I think Byfield's probably going to play in junior. So this is going to be sort of like a middle of the road year for them. I don't think that they'll finish as high as 4th.
There's 2 stats that are interesting with Quick. The last 2 years, he was a .888 and a .904 save percentage. The 888 year, the whole team was a disaster, so I'll give him a break because he was a minus 29 GSAA. Last year, though, as a 904, he was a minus 6.32 GSAA. That's still bad, and he's not that far from NHL average, so that's he can't play more than 40. He played 46 games, 42 games. Yeah. So now Jake Peterson's going to play the most games he's ever played.
Yes.
I can't put him ahead of the Stars based on that.
Yeah, I think Peterson. I mean,
and he's a good goalie.
Yeah, for them to have the success, Peterson's going to be their number one goaltender, and Quick is probably going to be the second highest backup in the NHL next to Marc-Andre Fleury.
My bigger question is where they're getting offense from, because you look at that team and you have to question where the offense is coming from. And granted, you're going to see some of the kids, and there's a long pipeline that's going to be coming down, but they're not ready yet. I mean, to expect all of them to pop at the same time may be a bit much.
And Drew Doughty's got to play tonight.
I won't be shocked if Turcotte gets more points than Byfield. I think Turcotte
is a year more maturity. I mean, that's big.
Yeah. I mean, and when I look at this is really there really are 4 teams at the top and 4 teams at the bottom of this division, basically. If you were to set, so to me, I saw that as like, there really are, you can put, you should put the Stars in there. They were Stanley Cup finalists, but.
Well, there's a lot of injuries, right? Sagan
a lot of injuries, right?
Hanged up. Bishop is out. I mean, that's huge.
And if one of those 4 bottom teams, Kings, Sharks, Ducks, Coyotes, to me, that's the Kings. Like they're the one to me, that's how I saw this. So I could be wrong, but to me, that's like
I will say the most damning thing on this, and I think you're right, is the fact that the Coyotes are 8th.
Yeah.
If the Coyotes come in 8th and they're as money strapped as they are, I can't see them lasting much longer in that market.
Well, I think the 2 teams that you could see climb in this division are, and I don't think they're particularly strong up front, but their defense is better and their goaltender is one of the best in the league, and that's the Ducks. That Gibson will get them wins because he's so good. But if he gets worn out like he has in the past, he'll either get injured or start letting in some bad goals.
Who's their backup? I don't know who their backup is.
They haven't re-signed Ryan Miller yet. I don't know who their backup is.
I don't think Miller's coming back either, so I don't think they have anybody.
Yeah, they don't have one yet.
And they're also cap strapped, right? So they don't have a lot of money to spend on somebody.
I have talked to people in the NHL that think the Sharks are going to make a rebound, which is
that's what I was going to say.
That's the other one I think we all think.
If Devin Dubnyk, because I'm sorry, I'm ready to break out the shovel and bury Martin Jones because I think he sucked the last 2 years.
Me too.
And I don't see him turning it around now. Anything can happen, but if Dubnyk bounces back to be the Dubnyk of 2 years ago, they could make a run at the playoffs.
I agree.
That also, remember, the thing we talked about is you have Burns, who I don't think had a great year last year. I think we all agree Karlsson didn't have a good year, and Vlasic showed signs of struggling. That the remaining 3, Merkley, I'm sure is going to get a shot, but we talked about before, their bottom 3, especially the bottom pair, who the heck knows who's going to be playing there?
Right. The one thing about them is, though, and I know this only because I have a few of them on fantasy, they've got a lot of plugs they can put in there, guys from Worcester that can fill certain roles. If you're getting the real Erik Karlsson and the real Brett Burns,
right,
they will be, and they get decent goaltending, they will be a lot better.
Absolutely, but who cares with them is the other question also.
I know.
And remember this, Karlsson has had 10 months to get healthy.
Yes.
Yep.
Right. That's very true. And how will the Blues really suffer from Pietrangelo? Like that's another question.
No, they replaced them with Krug, and
I don't think they're going to suffer that much. I don't think they are. Really, I don't think they are.
You know what? What's funny is my gut tells me, and again, it's too early. My gut tells me, put the Stars 3, put the Sharks 4, then put the Blues 5, because I could still see the Blues having a tumble here.
That could happen.
And you know what that would be tied to, Russ? If Binnington is not Binnington of 2 years ago.
That could be a part of it for sure, but there's a lot of things on that team. It's not just that. Even their strength in the center position isn't what it used to be either.
I mean, their fallback is Ville Husso. It's not Jake Allen anymore. And
that's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
I mean, these top 2 teams, if Leonard is healthy, and you've added Pietrangelo to the Vegas team, and the Colorado, if they're healthy, these top 2 teams are killer teams. I mean, it depends. I mean, Vegas could fall off. Anything can happen, but
Vegas is not going to fall off.
But if the divisions are in this format, I don't see them falling past 2.
Yeah. No, I don't either. All right, so next division. This is the Howe division. Mike
can't argue that one.
No.
This is a
Mike,
tough division to predict.
Why not the Makita division?
This is a really tough division to predict. All right, besides the Lightning being number one, which I think is pretty easy.
Yeah, but
575 in this division. So
I think Julian Brisebois is going to have a problem geographically with being in the division with basically you got the two Florida teams in with teams that are in the Central basically.
The Florida teams with the Hurricanes and the Predators, which is
I don't think that matters, Mike.
Which is to me that's the Southeast basically. The Florida teams, the Hurricanes and Predators. There's like your SEC football division, right?
Actually, the chat room makes a good point. Is this the Marty Howe division?
Yes, the Marty Howe division. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sid Howe.
Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe division. Okay, so yeah, there's basically your four Southeastern teams, and then you have your Blackhawks, Blue Jackets, Wild, and Red Wings. So your four Central Division teams essentially. Even though the Blue Jackets are an Atlantic team, but you have rivalries there. When you're moving the Red Wings, putting them back with the Blackhawks in the division is something the Red Wings will be okay with. They would like that.
I think you've got 1 and 8 perfect.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. The Blue Jackets. Well, I mean, they have to get Dubois signed, and I think I would assume that they're going to. I think putting the Wild third is wildly inaccurate.
Okay.
Even though I hate their goaltending, I could see Carolina finishing third in that division. And I don't think, honestly, I think Nashville would beat out the Panthers. The Panthers right now, I mean, they're not even as good a team as they were last year.
Yeah, we still have, we obviously still have ways to go with these teams.
I'm okay if you swap 3 and 5. I think if you swap 3 and 5, I could buy into this.
Okay, so the Hurricanes and Wild, yeah. The Hurricane, yeah, obviously I'm not giving the Hurricane that much credit here. And
their defense is still great at the end of the day.
And I'm actually thinking the Blackhawks may beat out the Predators. I don't like what I see on Nashville. I don't think they've done anything to improve that team. I think Ryan Johansson is still trending downwards. Look, the Blackhawks the problem is you put Corey Crawford on this team in this division, they may finish in the top 4.
But that's the problem, Jan. You've
got they don't have a goalie.
Colin Delia and Malcolm Subban. So
but I still think they're better than the Predators because of the talent, Taves and Kane and Kubalik.
Yeah, they're going to have more scoring.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm not. I'm
with Jan in the sense that the Blackhawks will have more scoring than Nashville, and I can't say that even Delia and Subban are any worse than what the Predators have in net. I think it's close. I think UC Saros is slightly better, but he's going to have to be like all-star caliber.
Yeah, and they have their AHL goalies.
I'd have Hurricanes 3, Wild 4, Panthers 5 probably.
Okay. Yeah, the Hurricanes. So you have the Blue Jackets around. You think the Blue Jackets are okay at 2, Jan, in your mind?
Yeah, it's close. Look, they get Dubois assigned. I think what they've done with the rest of that squad, I think they have a shot at finishing number 2. Granted, look, all of it depends on if the 2 goalies they have play as they did last year and if the combination is as good as they were, especially part of it. The other piece of the puzzle is if Domi plays like he did 2 years ago, then I do think they have a shot, especially with Jones and Werenski and Savard on the blue line.
Now, here's the interesting thing to go along with what we're talking about. What Pierre LeBrun reported this morning, he said, given the continued border restrictions, looking more and more like the 2021 season begins with an all-Canadian division, at least until they can figure out how to cross the border later in the season. So that basically means they might change the divisions in the middle of the year back to what they were.
They could. But I don't think they would.
See, that's why I would just do the scheduling.
That's not a very NHL type thing to do. Like they
could go to a conference playoff format like they did years back. Go 1 through 8.
I think they'll make a deal.
Why are we changing divisions when you could just have these teams match up on the schedule and just have it be a different schedule? You don't have to mess with the divisions at all.
Right. The problem is, Russ, is that, okay, you're playing teams like, Toronto and Montreal and Toronto and Ottawa play 4 times. So that's four.
They used to, not this year. It's going to be different this year.
Right. Well, yeah. That's the thing. Whether they go to a more heavy intra-division schedule.
It'll be more heavy. It'll be more like 6 games each or 8 games each.
I mean, the problem is also, remember, this year you will have, depending on the format, if you play in your own arenas, in several arenas you will have some scheduling conflicts because there will be basketball as of right now going on that you have to factor in as well. And look, I know Rex is going to get to the playoffs later, and I gave you my view already. Top 2 teams, and then the rest of them fall in, depending on how many playoff teams, based upon the record overall, as opposed to going it by division.
Yeah,
that have a stronger division. Yeah. Not allowing those guys always to make it just the top 4 in the division.
That scheduling conflict won't be applicable in Toronto because apparently the Raptors are going to play in Tampa Bay. I guess that's not.
Yeah, it's still up in the air. I agree. Right. So the Canadian division doesn't have a difficult time by comparison, especially since Toronto, the Air Canada Center, they're not having concerts for right now, right? So you're not going to have to worry about those kind of scheduling conflicts either.
Right. I'm going to give a conspiracy theory here for why the Panthers should stay where they are and maybe could go up one notch. So Hockey East starts at the end of this month. I did talk to Brian McCabe. I do have an article on Sportsology about Spencer Knight. McCabe basically told me whenever Knight says he's ready, they'll put him in the NHL. If Knight goes through another year like he had last year and a good World Juniors, I think he's going to turn pro, and then you might have him pushing Bob for some games, and that would really make their goaltending a lot better than other goaltending in the division.
Could be a serious combo, actually.
But Russ, Scott Darling's going to steal the number 1 job.
He might for like 2 weeks, but until that the rest happens, I'm just saying I could see this happening, and that would help bolster the Panthers.
I think it's Quinn. I think Darling is Quinn Villanzito just giving him a favor.
And $10 million sitting in the press box.
Yeah, I don't see that. All right, now
I didn't say sitting in the press box. I said they would probably end up rotating them.
Yeah.
$10 million going to Seattle.
Either way,
controversial.
They could only hope.
Always controversial. I'm going to call this the Lemieux division. All right, if you look at the winning,
is he wearing long gloves or short gloves, Zach?
I would call it the Adam Graves division instead.
Division with a winning percentage of .597.
The Paul Baxter division.
That is pretty friggin' good, by the way. .597 winning percentage, average winning percentage of this division. So, and I'm, really hard, but very hard to pick who's going to win this division.
Here's my first input here. The Bruins will not finish in second because of the injuries to Pasternak.
Okay.
And Marchand, and the potential absence of Chara, and Rask in the final year of his deal, and all the stuff that happened. I think psychologically it could affect them. They're not as strong as they were last year, where they were basically the President's Trophy winner. So I think they're going to finish lower than second. I think the Flyers will finish higher.
Okay.
I'm not convinced. The Islanders, their style of play fits more with a playoff situation and not a lengthy regular season. I mean, Barry Trotz's type of game bores people to tears, and that's including his players.
Or counterpoint on that, you could say the Islanders were we're finally getting together the system, and when it got to the playoffs. And I think I kind of feel like now that they know what they can do, this reminds me a lot of the Devils.
What if Barzal's a holdout to start the season?
Yeah. No, that's for sure. And then I'm going to assume that they're getting Barzal in there. If it doesn't get Barzal in there, then this changes.
I think three teams in this division should be ranked higher than they're ranked here: the Penguins, the Rangers, and the Caps. I think.
Okay. I agree with that. But this is interesting. I mean, if everything broke right, the Bruins could still win the division.
They could.
Even with their injuries to start the year, they're still good enough that they could still win this division. The Rangers defense
goalie duo as well. So
the Rangers are definitely better than where they're placed, but maybe only by one spot because their defense is still an issue.
I think
Capitals.
Sorry, go ahead.
The Capitals could win the division if they have a good goalie tandem like we think it's going to be. Even if Lundqvist is like 85% of what he used to be, they could win this division.
And I
don't know why they're 7th.
I think the Devils. I think the Devils are the 8th team in this division. And
yes, I agree with that.
Would at least finish 7th with Taylor Hall there.
It's So we talked about this. I'm higher on the Devils and lower on the Capitals than you guys were. And since I made that bet with you guys, I had to do that. But no, here's my thinking with the Capitals. Yes, there is no logical reason they should be 7th. I'm going to throw that out at you right now. There's no because you got Laviolette coming in. They're a good, solid team. Laviolette usually has great success when he first comes to a franchise. All those things are true, and yet for some reason I just don't. And I'm sorry, Thomas in the chat room and all that stuff, because you have solace that I'm probably dead wrong. I just don't think it's going to work. I don't know why.
Here's what's funny. See, this is why I don't want to do predictions early, because everybody's holding this like these are my season predictions, and they're giving me the usual rips. But no, I don't have the Flyers out of the top 4. I'm just saying I think there's some jostling that would go on here. It's just as easy the Bruins could come in 5th as they could in 1st. Like, this is a hard one, but I do think the Flyers will come in the top 4. The Penguins, unless they get Chara, I don't think they're in the top 4.
Yeah, and I think the Rangers could be better than this. They could. There's so many. Any one of these teams, take even the Sabres. I'll even throw the Sabres in there. Could finish. As high. The Sabres could finish as high as 4. The Devils could finish as high as 4. The Islanders
can't.
Not. Okay, first of all, the Devils, no way. The Sabres, they would have to get basically all-star level goaltending from not from Carter Hutton, but from Ullmark. Thank you.
Yeah.
They would have to play that well, and he really hasn't shown me anything that he could get to that level. So that was one of the
Devils could come in last in this division, and that wouldn't shock me.
I don't think them. I don't know. I feel like people just kind of missed how good the Devils were in the last half of last year.
It was in a bubble. I can't count any carryover.
No, outside the bubble.
They weren't even in the bubble.
There was no pressure on them when they're so far behind.
No, that's true. But they were still the third. They had the third best record in the Eastern Conference from January or March.
I can't count that.
No, January on. Yeah.
Fitzgerald did a good job of building that team. I mean, I don't think there's any question. I think there's definitely trending in the positive direction in terms of where they've gone. They still obviously have holes to fill, especially I think on their blue line they need help as well. And look, if PK Subban finally reverts back to form, then I could see it. But his play last year was a precipitous drop from where he used to be.
But I have no confidence that will happen. I mean,
I know
he hit the age where players get slower and worse. And
I think if the Penguins if Jarry is a little off, the Penguins could come in 6th here.
That's possible because there's no now it's their backup is not Matt Murray,
right?
So they're not
if they get Chara, then I would say, all right, you know what,
right?
I could leave him there.
Casey DeSmith isn't exactly a great safety net.
No. This is a really hard division to predict.
It is,
and throwing the Bruins basically throwing the Bruins into the Metro, essentially. Is what you're doing.
Sabres,
the Bruins and Sabres into the Metro. The Metro's already already taking the Metro division that's strong and getting stronger. It's like this is a really tough division to look at. And I honestly, that's why I went. You know what?
It's not impossible the Islanders win it, but Barzal definitely has to start the season. There's no question about it.
And if they get great goaltending,
Now you're asking Varlamov to do it 2 years in a row, which I can't remember the last time he had two great years in a row.
Varlamov at all.
You have Sorokin there now also.
Yeah, but Sorokin's not going to be like starting right away.
He is going to be starting right
now.
Oh, I don't think so.
This is the thing about him too. Remember,
I don't think
1 year deal. He's got a 1 year deal, and then he's an RFA.
I get that, but I don't think Barry Trotz is going to start Sorokin first game of the year and give. And I don't
think immediately, but I do think there'll be a changing of the guard.
Yeah, but he'll win. He is very easy, very possible if he's as good as we think he is that he takes the job from.
I think at best Sorokin could hope for an even split. I don't think they're going to do any more than that.
Not if he's winning. And
well, again, remember with the shortened schedule and the condensed, if there is a condensed schedule, you're going to have no choice but to play both guys somewhat evenly.
And I think it's going to be
maybe a 60-40 type split.
Yeah,
I mean, again, we don't know. Here's an interesting thing. The way that the KHL plays games, I think it's a 72-game season. I think 68, 72, right? I think it's something close to that.
Yeah.
They don't play a ton of back-to-backs that I ever noticed. Maybe they do, but I haven't noticed. So in a condensed schedule, you can't play Sorokin back-to-back until he proves he can do it. They may try it at some point, but they're not going to do that right away. That's for sure.
Well, you could get 3 games in 5 days, right? That could be what they do.
Yeah, he could do that.
Right, so that may be 3 games.
He won't do that right away.
How they do it. So
It's tough. I mean, and so as far as just looking at the divisions themselves, I think they're pretty obvious. Like, I think this is a pretty obvious setup. Like, I don't think there's really much else the NHL can do as far as moving these teams around. I mean, there's a few things that are obviously that division, the Canadian division is the Canadian division. This division is basically you have to keep the New York Metro teams, Flyers, Penguins, Capitals together. That to me is that's all. They're all really within 5 hours of each other.
Right.
So it's kind of like crazy. You're not going to do that. And then with the
this division could be the most unpredictable though.
Yeah, and the Bruins and the Sabres are a natural fit into this division, obviously. So they're the other teams you end up with here, right? That division.
Just to argument's sake, for some reason, if it all caught fire for the Sabres, that would turn this division upside down.
Yeah, it would. It would. And so then you come to this division, which is pretty obvious too. Like this is basically, I mean, the only team that's out of place here is the Blues, essentially. Like,
right.
They're technically in central and much closer to the other divisions than this division.
But
the ones that get hurt the most by the travel.
To these teams than any other team, like they're closer to these than any Central Division team. And that, and they have good rivalries with like the Avalanche. They have rivalries with teams in this division that have been.
The other thing I'll say about the Blues or St. Louis in general, the toasted ravioli is very underrated. That is a good dish.
So to me, that leaves this division pretty much
Mike, you have to agree as an Italian.
I like deep fried ravioli.
Well, it's the same thing, but they call it toasted ravioli.
I know.
You have to put the four Southern teams together, the four Southeastern teams together, which to me are the Nashville, Carolina, and the two Florida teams. And
I would put Buffalo and Boston in this division and leave the Metro the way it is.
That's not a bad idea.
You could
because you have the Great Lakes teams, you have Detroit, you have Chicago, Buffalo. If at all you can, if you can leave one division the way it is.
Yeah, you could do that. That's possible. I mean, I think that's possible. Although I think that
it's still a question of what they're going to do in terms of how they're going to play. I've heard two things. It's one, they're going to follow MLB and they're going to play in their own arenas, and there's a motivation for that because apparently with some teams they need to play games in their arenas for the naming rights to be paid to them. Because if they're not playing games, if they're playing in hubs or hybrid bubbles and they're playing in Nashville and, like a team like Columbus is getting money for the naming rights, if they're not playing games in their arena, they're not getting the money. So that's one motivation there. The other is this hybrid bubble thing where they're going to play all 8 teams or maybe groups of 4 teams in certain areas. And I don't even if it's like 2 weeks at a time and then they go back for a week, that's fraught with peril because if they're going back to their families, they could be getting exposed to the virus. So I don't know. I don't know what's the best thing, but I do know that every report is saying they're going to start training camps in December and they're going to start January 1 no matter what.
Here's something else that the chat room said that I'm not buying in on yet. They think, or at least one person, I couldn't see who it was, sorry, thought that Carter Hart's the best goalie in the Metro. I don't think he's there yet. I actually think because of age, Shesterkin could be better. And we have to see. He's got a couple of year difference on him. And I think right now with the Flyers defense, that top pairing is not going to be anywhere close to what it was last year. That's going to be a little bit of an equalizer too. And Hart is going to have to start playing road games again. We have to see if he really has beaten that because the bubble, I think, helped him with that. Those are reasons where you could say Shesterkin could be better than him this year.
I think if he starts the season like he played last year, Russ, then I think that argument is something it's convincing. But Hart has 2 NHL regular seasons and a pretty good performance in the playoffs last year.
But Shesterkin has more professional experience.
Yes, but again, we know the KHL is not the NHL level.
I know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I like your point, Mike, of maybe keeping the Metro Division together. That's not a bad point. I do think there's something to that if you were to put it like this and have like at least one division where you have a solid thing. Although my thinking would be more or less trying to keep travel down. More Boston and Buffalo are just way closer to the New York.
Again, it depends on the setup.
Yeah,
I'm going to argue with Funky on this too. Right now on paper, if you go by last year, the Flyers defense is better. But right now, I think the Flyers and Rangers defense are on par because we don't know what that Flyers top pairing is going to be. And it's a possibility that at some point, Keandre Miller gets in the Rangers blue line, and that would help it tremendously. So I don't think it's any better. I think they're on par with each other. It's just that they're completely different.
Remember, they've replaced Matt Niskanen with Eric Gustafsson.
All right, so let's
the pairings will be different, but
right.
you replace one of the better defensive defensemen, a veteran guy who's won cups, with a guy who couldn't find his own zone with a roadmap.
Hey, you could say I have Ranger bias, but I'm telling you, I watched the Flyers 82. I watched 40 games a year. Niskanen,
anybody on either team.
You're not getting an argument from me, but I'm just saying that he doesn't have a partner right now. We don't know if it's going to be Hogg or if it's going to be.
We love Provorov, but you know what? Niskanen settled down Provorov from the guy he was a year ago.
Yeah,
you could see a drop in Provorov because he doesn't have that foundation backing him up.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. Yeah. It is an interesting goalie situation in the Metro though. With, I mean, it really is like a new.
Sorokin's a wild card. I agree with Esmir.
A new class of goalies, like that's the interesting thing about it. Like, I mean, Samsonov, Shesterkin, Hart, Sorokin. I mean, it's really just like all the and out in and what's his name in
Blackwell
in Pittsburgh, right? So yeah,
Gary,
every one of these teams in the Metro is like a new thing.
All right, I want to have another debate here. So, who on the Rangers could match Ivan Provorov? It's Jacob Trouba. The reason that the Ranger fans, some of them were upset with Jacob Trouba, is the amount of money he makes. But if you looked at who he was paired with and how the game changed when he was on the ice, the physical nature that he brings, the other parts of his game, he has some offense. He doesn't, and Provorov had to play. When he gets to play a more offensive role, he has a little more offense than Trouba, but Trouba is a lot more physical than Provorov. This is not like a big jump.
And Funky is wrong in the chat. First of all, Brendan Smith is going to play the wing probably.
He will.
Trouba is not overrated. He's not as good as Provorov, but Trouba is not overrated.
He's not overrated.
Yeah.
No, he's a solid.
He played a lot of minutes,
Funky, I disagree with you. Trouba is not a 3D. I don't think he played well, particularly last year. I think he was misused.
He's a 2.
In terms of what he was misused. He had a great year in Winnipeg, which he parlayed into a big contract, and I was not a person who wanted that big contract initially. He was paired with Lieber Hayek originally, who played horrifically. Right. He then ended up putting him with Brendan Smith late in the year after Brady Shea was traded, and we all know how well Brady Shea played. I would think they might move Fox, but I don't think that would be the wise idea. I think you might see D'Angelo shift from his right to his left side to have a shot at playing with Trouba. In my opinion, Trouba is a borderline first pair defenseman, better suited to be at second pair, especially if they keep Fox and Lindgren together. They can keep that as the first pair, leave Trouba as the second pair. And I'm a big Provorov fan also. If you ask me personally, I will disagree with us. I would rather have Provorov, but I do think it's not as far as you think it is apart between the two of them. Trouba is clearly more physical than Provorov, and he's also done it more offensively. In his career, though, I do think Provorov still has more offensive upside that he could show.
Right.
I depend on what Philly does with Gostisbehere also and how they run the power play.
Here's the other thing to back up what Jan just said.
The overpay doesn't mean he's not a good defenseman. I don't think he's worth $8 million either, but that doesn't mean he's not a good defenseman.
Yeah.
Right. Just to back up what Jan said, in October, Trouba was averaging over 24 minutes a game to start a season.
Right.
That's a lot.
No, that's for sure. So let's get into the playoff aspects of this now. And the obvious thing, I'm not a big fan of the 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3 divisional thing. But it might be a necessity. It might be a necessity that the NHL is going for the simplest possible solution right now. That's what I've been told, and that's the simplest solution is that. Now, whether or not you add in a play-in, say let's keep it divisional for a second, and say we have a play-in where you go 4 versus 5 to get in, or you have 4 versus 5 and 3 versus 6 to get in. I think you will have a play-in. If you do a 3 versus 6, though, then you end up with 6 of the 7 Canadian teams making the playoffs, right? Which is that to me is tricky. I think the most you can do with play-in is a 4 versus 5. Mike, I mean,
I think it should be a 20 team playoff. So yeah, if you're talking then that's 5 in each division. And 4 plays 5 in a best of 3, say. Yeah, I mean, I think you have to expand it a little bit, but I don't think 24.
Yeah, that's too much.
That's too much.
So in my opinion, I think it depends on how the structuring works. Right? I'm a big proponent of top 2 making it in each division, and then the remainder of them get thrown together to a certain extent. I mean, what's your Western Conference now?
Yeah, no, my Western Conference would have the it could be the Canadian teams, and the Western Conference would be.
So Toronto and Montreal are now in the Western Division.
Yeah.
Well, see, here's where I have a real problem with the all Canadian division. If they travel to individual cities, you're talking about now. I would think that if they're playing 8 games against each other, that if when Toronto goes to Vancouver, they're playing back-to-back games, so they have to make 2 trips. But so that's 2 games in Vancouver, 2 games in Edmonton, 2 games in Calgary, and they have to do that twice. Other teams aren't going to have to be flying coast to coast as much as Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa. That's the disadvantage of that Canadian division. I don't care how weak it is. That's a big disadvantage travel-wise.
Right. So basically, Jan, I went through all of you. Jan.
That's me. He's Mike.
You would have so say we think Toronto, Calgary are 1 and 2 in the Canadian division, and then we have Colorado and Vegas is 1 and 2 in the Western division. So therefore, you have from there on, you have the Blues, Kings, Stars, Canucks, Edmonton, Montreal. They have that sort of. That's how that would work essentially, how that would play.
I'm a proponent of top 2 in each, and then the rest of them. Basically, it goes by points overall as opposed to spot in the division, because there is, as you shown, material differences in common. Look, and every division is going to vary from year to year in terms of strength and weaknesses and strength and everything else. But this might be a way to streamline and not necessarily be impacted by the strength of schedule. You could have a number 4 team in one division have substantive amount of more points in another division. It happens, but in this case, with everything so convoluted and not set up, that may be a better way of doing it. Just tiering it based upon number of points overall. Yeah.
I think I don't disagree. I like that better because I'm also a big fan of just in general of not I'm not big into the divisions. Like everybody always is like, oh, the divisions are the best thing, and all the rivalries of the division. I mean, these divisions are new, so in a way, I guess you can make the argument that you're not going to be bored of it because there are new aspects to it, right?
But I'm assuming it's a one and done. If things return to a sense of normalcy, this is a aberration for a year, not something you're keeping consistently.
Right. It is definitely a one and done. I mean, they're not going to keep the Canadian teams together forever. This is the concept of this is to make some money this year for Sportsnet and
the concept of this is the Canadian government has
the border, but there's also some follow the money here too. There is definitely some follow the money going on with this.
I think it's about 70 the border and 30 the Sportsnet.
I'll go 50-50. The border makes it definite they have to do it, but they're really okay doing it because of the money part of it. I think that's sort of how it goes. Maybe if that makes any sense. But yeah, I mean, that if you put those 2 divisions, those are the 2 weaker divisions, and then the East. You want to call the East, which is the Metro / Southern teams and Central teams are better. That's a harder division to make the playoffs. And if you
the interesting part is of those teams, they're going to be the last to get fans back. Maybe Philly will be the exception because. They have been allowing some fans, but New York is going to be the last to have fans.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all of that's going to sort of be a weird way of affecting things too.
Unless they get some sort of special dispensation from Cuomo and Murphy.
And you have Massachusetts, they're not going to get fans back so quickly.
Right.
Either. You're right. I mean, so the Sabres, because you have all the team, you have the Rangers, Sabres, Islanders all in that division.
Buffalo, New Jersey, they're all going to have trouble. Philly might be the outlier because, like I said, they have fans in Eagles games now, but indoors is different. We still don't know what the indoor rules are going to be when this hockey season starts. That's going to be the other thing.
Right.
I will tell you this. The one thing Murphy did leave in as an opener, Mike, is that on his recent thing, he said he is not going to impact professional sports. He's going to try not to. So, but it's going to be at some degree, obviously. It's not going to be 100% occupancy, so he is going to impact it. But he did sort of leave that out there that youth sports, yes, professional sports, no.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
it's a hard juggling act. We don't know.
We have no idea. So, but to me, it's a rainy Thursday in November. It's a fun enough thought experiment to go through this.
Oh, it was great. I liked it. Heck, I have one more subject here. With the World Juniors coming up, I brought up, I guess probably a couple of weeks ago about how it might be hard for some college players to let their colleges let them go play. So Owen Power, who's going to be playing for who was invited to Team Canada's camp, going to be very high in this year's draft. Defenseman, just a tremendous player. He won't be going to the World Juniors because his coach at Michigan said essentially he'd be missing 51 days in a freshman calendar. And he brought up academics, and of course that's always a hot button because yes, I do believe Michigan is one of those schools that really does press the academics.
Oh yeah, it's a good school.
But we're going to talk about Dylan Holloway, who goes to Wisconsin. Now he's a sophomore, but he's probably going to get the allowance to miss the 51 days.
And here's the other thing about the 51 days, Russ. I didn't even mention that. Like my daughter's right now, she's coming home in 8 days. She went there late. Like the semesters are scrunched together too for the classes. Right. So 51 days is a lot more now than it would.
A lot more missed work than was what you're saying.
Yeah, like they're really squishing. Like there's no breaks. There's no like little fall breaks or no like holidays at all. Everything is crunched together.
Yeah, so it's definitely impacting Power. Whether he would have made Team Canada or not, I think he would have had a chance. Holloway, we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see what Wisconsin says about it because I don't know how many games Wisconsin's going to play. That's going to be the other factor here. So that's something to keep an eye on. I mean, it's not a ton of players, but it just goes to show you how even those things are going to be impacted, even with the bubble and everything else, because of the quarantine, it does throw things out of whack.
Oh yeah. There's no question about it. But no, it'll be interesting. Also, I'd like Rush. I mean, Jan. Oh my God, I am so.
Which one is it? It's one of the Brady.
Eventually, you'll get it right. So
Jan, your article today on Kravtsov, I thought was interesting.
What was that?
His article.
Again, you broke up.
Your article today that you posted on Hockey Buzz.
Kravtsov?
Yes, when Kravtsov. And the fact he's playing in the cage is going to stay in the year in the KHL. I thought it was. Yep. But you might want to. I don't know if you want to discuss that or not.
Yeah, so, this is something that's been rumored. I mean, Jillian Kramer, who writes for the KHL, has kind of put that out there. A bunch of others have put it out there, right? So part of it is clearly, especially early on before he suffered the injury, Kravtsov was playing extremely well when he first went over.
Right.
He's much more in a much better mental state, a much better, I think, physical state also is a lot stronger, and he's been a lot more aggressive in terms of while he's been on the ice as well. And I guess twofold is one, the Rangers, are welcoming the change in terms of what they've seen, especially as we know last year, similar to Elias Anderson, he went back home. Right. Different than Anderson, he came back and was with the Rangers during the play-in round and skating with the team during the practices beforehand. But this gives him a chance to kind of stay in an area where he's content and happy. But also, as we've seen a couple times, is they have a major issue with performance bonuses. That is a large amount of what they're going to have to sequester in terms of the cap. So by doing so, they save part of the cap room potentially where his performance bonuses would hit. In addition, I'll get to probably part 2 of the column, which is what Brooks posted also, is this could increase the shot that Morgan Barron ends up making the team as well, because they may have had room for one or the other. This kind of makes it a bit more likely than Barron ends up possibly breaking camp whenever that is, as opposed to Kravtsov, because of the fact they'll have the cap room to do so.
Associated with this, because it's KHL news, but I found it fairly humorous. Rodion Amirov, the Leafs' first-round pick from this year, was named KHL Man of the Week. There's only one problem. He didn't do anything in the KHL. He scored 3 goals in the Karjala Cup, and it has nothing to do with the KHL, but they gave him Man of the Week anyway.
They won.
Well, that's an interesting. Man of the Week is a big interest.
No, but I want to go back to what Jan said. So we did talk a couple weeks ago about these performance bonuses, and I think what's happening here is twofold. Basically, my source in the KHL tells me that Kravtsov still has to mature a bit mentally. And so with Jan saying happy and content, that's where the happy and content part comes in. So I think that's a big thing. And Barron is so much far ahead for Kravtsov only physically that right now it would make sense to let him give it a go because he could really bang guys. I mean, I saw him dominate a game last year live that I'm willing to give this guy a chance. So I think let him develop there. That's good. It's good for everybody.
I think it's a really good move, especially, and gets to play right now too, which is nice. Yeah. I mean, you playing right now. If you have a player who's a prospect and he can play right now, he should. I mean, that's really how I feel.
Yeah, I that's why I think the NHL should be making this decision quicker, because I think the minute they make it, some teams will even let some of their slight veterans go and play somewhere so they could actually play, because At the end of the day, you don't want these guys coming in off a long rest. I feel bad for the teams like the Sabres and everybody else, even though they're going to get to start early.
Yeah.
8 months off is killer. It's the worst thing.
1 week.
It's not going to matter.
1 week.
Those guys, I mean, I've talked to people. Those teams is really hard. I mean, they're really, really concerned about where their players are, like mentally and physically.
Well,
they should be.
The other thing I heard is, and this is probably why the NHL wants to firm up when they're going to start, is some of these players have very particular off-season routines in terms of ramping up for training camp.
Sure.
And when they don't know when they're going to start, they could be working out at top speed or whatever top output, but they don't want to do that too early or they peak too early. So they need to know when the season's going to start.
Yeah.
Well, here's something I'm going to be writing in another article in about a week or two. I spoke to an assistant general manager. I'm not going to say who it is now because it'll kill the article. But basically, he did tell me, look, guys could play in these scrimmages, and it is nothing like what they want them to be with contact and everything else. So, I know it's easy to say, oh, look, your guy's playing with a scrimmage with Connor McDavid. It really doesn't do what you think it's going to do for them.
Yeah, definitely. That's
It's better than nothing.
It is better than nothing, but 100% agree. All right, that's all the time we have for today. Tomorrow we'll be in with Kevin Allen on the podcast, and what we're going to do tomorrow is like a big Q&A type day. So if you put your questions in the chat room tomorrow, we will be answering them and going off them. We're going to have I'll
tell you one of the questions, what it should be. What's Kevin Allen's middle name? Because I have no idea.
I don't know either.
Costner.
Kevin Costner Allen. I don't think
maybe he doesn't have one.
I don't think that's it. I think he does have a middle name. I'm going to guess it's James. I don't know why, but
I'm going to go with old school, because he's a little older than me. I'm going to go Rupert.
Oli. Like a weird Finnish name, like Kevin Oli Allen.
Aki, Kevin Patori Bird.
Kevin Yucca-Pekka Allen. All right.
Kevin Snake Allen.
Right. Kevin the Snake Allen.
Well, Tim Allen is from that area.
Kevin's middle name is Danger. Kevin.
Isn't Tim Allen from the Michigan suburbs?
I think it is. I think
I'm pretty sure he is. So somebody said that. That's funny.
Danger.
Kevin Danger Allen.
It's Russ. It's Kevin. It's Kevin Neal Allen.
Kevin Wrench Allen. All right. Here we. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.